Cancer Prevention, Facts You Should Know. Level High School and General Public. Volume 3, Cancer Prevention. I hope you enjoyed the Volume 1 and 2 of this presentation. Listening to Volume 1 and 2 prior to listening to Volume 3 will help you to understand Volume 3 presentation much better. So cancer prevention is mainly focused on lifestyle and awareness. There is no pill to prevent cancer. Cancer is not a disease that will happen from one day to the other. As I mentioned in Volume 2 of this presentation, it takes many years to develop carcinoma, which is the most common type of cancer in adults. Therefore, cancer prevention efforts should be followed for long term. Again, as I mentioned in Volume 2 of this presentation, efforts to prevent cancer should start early during childhood. I have shown here some of the major cancer prevention guidelines. Eat healthy foods and maintain robust immune system. Exercise regularly. Minimize your exposures to carcinogens. And be aware of cancer and do not ignore any early warning signs. These guidelines are not difficult to follow, but one has to be persistent. Eat healthy foods. As kids, you should have food that are rich in protein, fat, carbohydrates, minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants. Here are some of the tips for food that are rich in protein and the right amounts of fat that you need. Grains, eggs, cheese, chicken, sprouts, and fish. They are all very healthy. Sprouts especially have tons of protein and antioxidants and many other minerals. It's really very healthy to eat sprouts. Carbohydrates. There are two types of carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates are carbohydrates that when you eat them, they are pretty sweet. They are basically sugar, simple sugar. But complex carbohydrates are sugar molecules, but they are complexed with other materials like fibers and other food materials. They are much more healthy because you don't have to eat them a lot to satisfy your hunger. So you eat a small amount of them. On the other hand, simple carbohydrates like sugar, for example, a Coke or a Pepsi or any other soft drinks, you drink a lot and you also consume a lot of sugar. So try to include more of complex carbohydrates. Some of the examples are shown here. Bananas, potatoes with the skin is healthy, and bread made up of grains and pasta made up of grains. Quinoa is extremely healthy. There's tons of protein and also good amounts of good complex carbohydrates. And rice, also good amount of complex carbohydrates. Minerals and vitamins, you don't need as much as protein, fats, and carbohydrates, but you need them in small amounts, but you need them also every day. As I mentioned about antioxidants, have the potential to stop the reactive oxygen species, one of the most common cancer-causing agents. So antioxidants are rich in coconut water, milk, honey, and vegetables which are colored like this here, and fruits also which have lots of colors. So try to include them in your daily food. You don't have to eat a lot of these things, but you should have a small amount of this so you have some amount of antioxidants in your system all the time. Exercise your body and brain. Sweat, sweat, sweat. I, I say that 3 times because that's one of the most important thing of doing exercise. You have to sweat. Skin is the largest organ in your body. So if you profusely sweat for about half an hour or 40 minutes playing a game like soccer or basketball or something like that, you are going to sweat out easily more than half a gallon of water out of your system. Along with the water, there goes a lot of salt and many other toxins that might be embedded in your system. So sweating is a natural way of detoxification. So you should, if you sweat every day, you are detoxifying yourself every day, and it is going to help you a lot in maintaining good health. You should also try to exercise your brain. Just working out, your muscles is not sufficient, but you should also work out your brain. Thinking is a way to work out your brain. So play some games where you put in more efforts to think. And do not put a lot of emphasis or don't put too much of time in playing video games. It is well known video game is like an addiction to any other addictive agents like alcohol or drugs. The same type of chemicals are induced in your brain when you are attracted to play video games again and again and again. And video game playing for a long time can also lead to many other health issues like depression and you might also your cognitive power, your ability to concentrate in your studies, your relationship with your friends, everything start diminishing if you put in a lot more time on playing video games. So try to minimize the time playing video game. I'm not telling that don't play video game at all, but this is the 21st century, and that is how many kids try to socialize with their friends. You should do it, but have a time limit. Do not play more than 2 hours a day video games. Try to enjoy, go out, play, sweat, and be with your friends and have more time together rather than just sitting in front of the computer and playing video game. Drink plenty of water. When you sweat a lot, you also have to consume good amount of water. Again, drinking water keeps you well hydrated. It also tries to eliminate toxins from your body. All body functions, as you all know, all body functions need water. Our cells, 95% of our cells are made up of water. They need water all the time. Lack of water can cause dehydration, and dehydration can also concentrate whatever bad toxins you have in your system, and that can have much more harmful effect on your body. And use plastic water bottles sparingly, especially if the water bottles are stored in a hot car for a long time. Sometimes you can feel a taste difference in water stored in the hot car for a long time. It will be slightly sweetish. It is because of the acetaldehyde that can leach out from the plastic into the water. So try to avoid such long stored plastic water bottles in the car. So use plastic water bottle only sparingly and try to use metal containers or metal canisters for storing and drinking water. Protect yourself from carcinogens. Avoid unhealthy foods. Alcohol, we talked about alcohol. It is one of the most common and the most common cancer causing diet related factor. Alcohol, as we mentioned, the cancer causing agent in alcohol is acetaldehyde. So if the acetaldehyde remains for a long time in your blood, that can mutate many cells. That's one thing. Another thing is alcohol itself is dangerous to the developing neurons. Your cells are all growing. So you don't want to have alcohol now. So it can also affect your developing brain cells. It's really dangerous. Especially recently, I heard that people try to vape alcohol. Vaping alcohol is extremely dangerous. When you vape alcohol, it goes straight into your lungs and also into your brain without getting into the liver. It is in the liver the alcohol gets converted into acetaldehyde. But alcohol itself, when it is in the blood, it is highly dangerous. And when it is in the brain, it's extremely dangerous for your neurons. It can affect your brain cells. So vaping alcohol is a totally no. Don't even try that. It's not at all healthy habit. So first of all, at your age, at high school, it is not a good practice to get into drinking alcohol. Try to avoid drinking alcohol. And number two is the high sugar containing drinks. High sugar containing drinks can lead to obesity. The reason is the following. When you drink high sugar containing drink, the sugar content in these drinks are very high. They are mainly simple sugars. Okay, the cell likes simple sugars because it can be easily metabolized. When the sugar is metabolized, it produces lots of energy. So when the cell has a lot of energy already, it just uses the energy that is produced from the sugar, and it does not try to use the other source of energy which you have in your body, the fat. It does not use it. So the fats start to accumulate. So if you drink high sugar containing drinks every day and every meal, you are mainly metabolizing the sugar that you are taking, and you are avoiding or you are preventing your fat metabolism, and the fat tend to accumulate, and that's what leads to obesity. And obesity is linked to cancer, diabetes, heart attack, and many other major illnesses. So you should try to minimize your drinking high sugar containing drinks. Processed meats. Processed meat contains a lot of nitrates. These nitrates, and in addition to nitrates, they also have lots of sodium. Both of them are not good. The nitrates can be converted into nitrosamines, which are carcinogens. So I'm not telling don't eat this kind of processed meat at all. Eating once in a while at moderate level is fine, but do not make it as a practice to eat every day in your life processed meat. The same thing with high sodium containing snacks. First of all, they are fried, and also they have lots of sodium. And sodium is not an healthy thing. Although sodium is essential for all of your body, many of your body functions at high levels, it is not healthy. When you have lots of sodium in your body, sodium is attracted to water. It tries to retain water. When your body retains a lot of water, you feel more heavy. When you feel more heavy, you don't feel like moving around. You don't feel like running. You feel like sitting down. And so that is not healthy. So try to minimize taking a lot of high sodium snacks. Charred meat. Charred meat is again, it's not healthy. It is known that charred meat contain a carcinogen called polyaromatic hydrocarbons. These black regions have that chemical, which is a carcinogen. So try to avoid charred portions of the meat, or try to scrape it off as much as you can before you eat them if you have to eat a small piece of meat. And fried foods. Fried foods, for example, chicken, French fries, when you fry them in hot oil, there a chemical called acrylamide is produced. And this acrylamide is not healthy. It is also known it can be a carcinogen. So should try to minimize eating a lot of fried food. I'm not telling don't eat at all, eat them, but at small amounts, at moderate amounts. Pesticides. Most of the fruits and vegetables you buy from the supermarket are sprayed at some time with some type of pesticides. You don't know what has been sprayed, so you should be cautious to remove as much as pesticides you can from these fruits and vegetables before consuming them. We will look at that in the next slide. And spicy food. Some people, all when they eat spicy food, they get pretty bad acidity. When you have lots of acidity, there is another problem called a reflux disease, where the acid from the stomach try to enter into the esophagus. So when that happens, you will have a burning sensation, and that, if it continues, if it persists, and if it is not treated, can lead to some type of cancer in your esophagus. So you should try to, if you feel that you are, when you eat as spicy food, you feel acidity, then you should try to avoid eating too much spicy food. Smoking. Smoking is really bad. 30% of the cancers worldwide is because of smoking. One need not smoke a cigarette to get all the harmful effects of smoking. The cigarette has about 70, the cigarette smoke, I should say, has about 70 different carcinogens. So when somebody is smoking, they are inhaling all these carcinogens into their lungs, and from there it goes to all over the body. So even if you are standing next to someone who is smoking, or you're in a room where somebody is smoking, you will have the same effect as a person who is smoking. That's called a secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke is as harmful as the first-hand smoke. So try to avoid smoking and minimize your exposure to cigarette smoke. People think e-cigarettes are better. It's not the case. E-cigarettes just came out. We do not know what are all going to be the harmful effects of these e-cigarettes yet. But one thing for sure we know, e-cigarettes contain tons of nicotine. It has about 5 milligrams of nicotine. And if you start using e-cigarettes, you're going to be addicted pretty soon. And after some time, instead of e-cigarettes, you will start using a real cigarette, which can cause cancer. So don't get into the practice of using any tobacco products. That will be the best way to prevent. Tobacco chewing. This is also a very common practice in India. And it's actually in India, the most common cancer among men is the head and neck cancers, especially the mouth and the throat cancers, because of the tobacco chewing. So we know tobacco in any form can cause cancer. So why? Buy tobacco, chew it, and get yourself exposed to cancer, and then later you have to go through the treatment for cancer, which is again one of the worst things one can experience in life. So why not to take preventive actions and try not to smoke at all, and so you don't have to go through that harmful situation at some point later in your life. Now, marijuana. This has been getting legalized. This is getting legalized in many of the states of the United States, and many people can get hold of this. You should understand that most of these things that kids or other people get are not made legally. They are made in somebody's backyard. Somebody makes it, and you don't know what are all the things that goes in. One of the problem with these things is that the kind of things they can mix with this to get you addicted to it, so that you get addicted to this marijuana, and then you get into much more deeper trouble later. So try to be very cautious. Don't spend your time and money to destroy your health, especially your future health. Right now, it might sound exciting, but you will eventually pay the price in your health when you grow older. So try to avoid all these things now. Automobile exhaust. Similar to cigarette smoke, this also has many carcinogens. So you should minimize your exposures to automobile exhaust. But sometimes when you walk on the street, it's not possible. You will not expect that something like this is going to come in front of you. So temporarily, if it happens, you can just cover your nostrils or blow the wind in front of your nose so that you minimize inhaling these automobile exhaust or cigarette smoke or something like that. Pesticides and weed control. People often use this, especially in the summer, to have a nice lawn. They use weed controls and they are not healthy. So you should try to minimize your exposures to weed control, especially if you have to play soccer or golf. They put a lot of these chemicals on their lawn to keep it really clean and without weeds. So when you come home, you don't want to walk inside the house with the same shoes. You try to have an outdoor shoes, leave the shoes outside so you don't take all the chemicals inside your house. And the best way to wash out the chemicals from your hands is to wash with soap and water. The same thing when you play soccer or when you play any other game on the grass or golf, when you come home, it's better you take a nice shower with soap and clean off all the chemicals from your body. Sanitizer will not work because sanitizer will kill only germs. It will not clean or wash out your chemicals. So the best way to wash out chemicals is to wash with water and soap. Pesticides. This is a major problem. We have this everywhere. Our water system is getting contaminated because of uses of pesticides. So we should try to be very careful avoiding pesticides from fruits and vegetables. The best way to remove the pesticides from fruits and vegetables is to soak them in water for at least 20 minutes and rinse them once in a while and shake them once in a while, when they are getting soaked, so that all the pesticides from the fruits and vegetables will come out into the water by a process of diffusion. So, and just rinsing is not sufficient at all. You need to soak them to get rid of most of the pesticides and fruits, at least from the surface of the fruits and vegetables. Fruits such as grapes, strawberries, they are all have tons of pesticide. They need to be really soaked and washed before you consume them, especially before you feed them to kids. UV rays. So what you see here, these burnt areas and all these white things are dead epidermal cells, epithelial cells of the skin, because of the UV rays have burned them out. And now your dermis is exposed, which is even more sensitive to UV rays. So you should never allow this one to happen. And so one of the best things to protect yourself from the UV rays is to apply sunscreen, but use a squeeze bottle and not a spray. The reason why you don't want to use a spray is because these sunscreens are made for only the external surface of the body. When you spray, you're going to inhale a lot of this spray into your lungs. And if you look at the ingredients of this sunscreen, they have heavy metals like aluminum, titanium, and so on. You don't want to take all these things, especially you don't want to have children to have these things in their lungs. They are still growing. So try to minimize using spray bottles for sunscreen. And even if somebody is using next to you in a beach or something, try to use closing the nostrils so that you don't inhale these, the sunscreen into your lungs. Indoor tanning. This is again a very bad practice. When you go and lie down before a tanning machine, you are lying just 2 feet below an ultraviolet lamp. And it is known indoor tanning increases the melanoma incidence by about 60%. Why is that really important to get that tanning? Just go indoor and get it and expose yourself to harmful ultraviolet rays. It's not worth to get melanoma in your future. And if you see something like this, kind of abnormal moles in your skin anywhere, you should watch out. You should go and talk to the doctor immediately and try to check it out and make sure that it is not melanoma or any forms of skin cancer. So cancer is a preventable disease. I strongly feel prevention is better than cure. So 1.5 million cancer death of the estimated global 8 million cancer death is due to tobacco smoking, which can be prevented by avoiding smoking. Between one-fifth and one-fourth of the cancers globally are related to obesity, physical inactivity, alcohol consumption, and poor nutrition, which can be prevented by exercising, reducing alcohol consumption, and having a healthy diet. Cancers due to infections by viruses such as HPV, HPV, HCV, HIV, and H. pylori, bacteria like H. pylori, could be prevented by behavioral changes, vaccination, and treatment of infections. Exposure to UV rays, either from the sun or tanning beds, cause skin cancer and can be prevented by proper precautions. Recently, American Cancer Society published that about 42% of cancer cases and 45% of cancer deaths in the United States are linked to modifiable risk factors and thus could be prevented. So, some of the things that can cause cancer we talked about, according to the American Cancer Society published report: tobacco smoking, exercise, excess body weight, eating red meat and processed meat, diet low in fruits, vegetables, dietary fiber, and calcium, physical inactivity, ultraviolet rays, and cancer-associated infections. We talked about all these things in our presentation. So try to minimize your exposure to cancer-causing agents. That will be the best way you can prevent cancer in your future. Do's and don'ts. Do's: exercise at least 30 minutes every day to reduce stress and maintain good health. Eat balanced diet, including many fresh vegetables and fruits every day. Drink plenty of water. Wash fruits and vegetables to remove pesticides by soaking in water for at least 20 minutes. Protect yourself from cancer-causing environmental factors such as cigarette smoke, car exhaust, pesticides, and strong sunlight. Get age-appropriate cancer vaccines if available. Don'ts: avoid cigarette smoking and all tobacco products. Avoid drinking alcohol. Do not have unprotected sex, which can transmit cancer-causing viruses such as HIV and HPV. Do not ignore early warning signs or symptoms such as persistent fever, tendency to bruise easily, bleeding, painless lymph nodes, lingering headaches, loss of energy and weight loss, abnormal looking moles. Limit high sugar and artificial sugar containing drinks. Limit your screen time. So we have a great team. We work together in helping children to learn more about cancer. Dr. Bruce Sokoloff is our medical consultant, and Dr. Padmini Harigopal is also our medical consultant. Tu Win is our medical director, and Julia Ambrosio is our medical editor. We have Dr. Malathi and KG Narasimhan, coordinators of Indian Schools Cancer Education Program. We all work together as a team to bring this excellent program to the kids so that they can all live cancer-free in their future. Practice cancer prevention every day. Like you clean your teeth, practice simple cancer prevention approaches every day in your life. Follow it whenever it is needed and minimize your exposure to carcinogens, which will ultimately help you to live a cancer-free life when you grow older. Disclaimer: cancer information provided in this presentation in all the volumes, volume 1, 2, and 3, is only for educational purpose. You must not rely on the information as an alternative to medical advice from your doctor or other professional healthcare provider. If you have any specific questions about any medical matter, you should consult your doctor or other professional healthcare provider. Viewer discretion is advised. Thank you. Live healthy and happy. For more questions on cancer, visit www.cancervisionfoundation.org. Also, listen to our cancer prevention seminars to elementary and middle school.